Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we are making an impossible and incredible crustless pumpkin pie that is absolutely delicious and so easy. Now, Alex has said she never wants another regular pumpkin pie. She likes this so much better than the pumpkin pie with the crust. And even my delicious homemade butter crust, she likes this better. I really like this too because I love pumpkin pie, and without the crust, I could eat a whole lot more pumpkin pie. But I honestly think you don't miss the crust in it, and it is, lower calories, lower carbs, lower everything, and it is so good. Now there's tons of substitutions you can make in this, and like I said, it is so easy. You need some pumpkin. The original recipe that I found called for a cup of pumpkin. I used a whole can, which is about a cup and a half. For all of you overachievers out there like Miss Becky at Long Term Recovery up in Mountain City, you can use fresh pumpkin in this. It works great. And if you make one of these pies with fresh pumpkin, you better save me a piece. If you've got a recipe that uses a little bit of pumpkin, like the pumpkin spice creamer that we did, and you want to save out a couple of tablespoons out of your can to make it go a little farther, you certainly can. But I like it with the whole can of pumpkin in it. Anyway, you need a cup and a half of milk. You can use fresh milk, you can use almond milk, you can use whatever kind of milk you want, just regular old whole milk out of the refrigerator. I'm using a can. Had it in my pantry and I needed to use it, and it's what I use in my regular pumpkin pies. You need about a half a cup of flour. Now this is just plain flour. You could probably use self-rising in this, but you would want to leave out the baking powder and cut the salt back a little bit. You could use almond flour in this if you need a gluten-free variety. You need 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and you can adjust that up or down to suit your taste. Most pumpkin pie recipes call for regular granulated sugar, but my mother years and years ago accidentally put brown sugar in the pumpkin pie, and she was just in a panic tizzy because she thought she'd ruined everybody's Thanksgiving pumpkin pie. And they are the best pumpkin pies. So I always use brown sugar in my pumpkin pie recipes, no matter what kind I'm making. And you can use light or dark, and I had most of what I needed in light brown, but there's a little bit of dark brown in the bottom here because, I wanted to use what I had open. You need 2 eggs, 1 to 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, maybe even 3. I use 2 kind of heavy ones. I like pumpkin pie spice. Adjust that to suit your taste. You can also use cinnamon, cloves, ginger, nutmeg, do your own. You need a teaspoon of baking powder and about a half a teaspoon of salt. Now don't forego the salt in this recipe because the eggs and the pumpkin without the salt are not going to taste good. And you need a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and my melted butter has sat here and thickened up just a little bit. It's a half a stick of melted butter. And then we're going to need a little bit more butter because we're going to grease our pie plate. Oh, and don't forget the vanilla. 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla. It again is to taste. I like at least 2 teaspoons, and I might spill a dabble too. I think we have all the ingredients here. If you need it dairy-free, like I said, almond milk will work, and just milk out of the refrigerator will work. If you need it gluten-free, use almond flour. It will work. And you can use a sugar substitute. You can use granulated sugar. You can use brown sugar, whatever. It don't matter. Ooh, dairy-free. I don't know what you would use to replace the butter. I guess some kind of plant-based butter would work. Anyway, to make the crust for this, what we are going to do is we are going to take a cold stick of butter, and we are going to completely coat our pie pan. And make sure you coat it very well. This will release your pie, and it actually helps kind of make a little bit of crust on it. I said it was crustless, but it's not like, it does have a slight crust to it. Get on the sides, get in the corners. I even do up on the edge because this is going to completely fill my pie plate. And it might not completely fill it if you just use a cup of pumpkin, but like I said, I use the whole can, which is about a cup and a half. And you do want to make sure it's just pumpkin, not pumpkin pie mix. If you hold your pan up to the light and kind of look at it, you can see any missed spots. Make sure you get it all good. And then, like I said, I even go around the edge here, because that will help the edge of it release. And using a stick of cold butter is the easiest way to do this, and it doesn't waste any, and you don't even get it all over you. All right, now we're just going to mix all this stuff up. I do mix my dry ingredients together, and if I had gotten out bigger bowls, I would have mixed the sugar in with the flour and the spices and the baking powder, but I don't think that will work in these bowls. The reason why you mix your spices in with your flour is if you don't, the spices are going to tend to float to the top of your pie, and it's going to be very, very hard to get them mixed in. But if you mix it in with your flour, they'll mix in real easy. And we can go ahead and pre-beat our eggs. I usually just start with them, but since I've got the fork there. Okay, what we're going to start with is our wet ingredients. And we're going to mix all them up, and then we're going to add our dry ingredients. If you're using this canned milk, do make sure you shake it up. I'm also going to go ahead and add my vanilla, because if I wait, guess what? I will forget it. I said 2 teaspoons, and I spill a little. I have a ton of homemade vanilla that I'm letting age. If you did not see that live stream, it's really easy to make homemade vanilla. And I have one of these pies in the oven that we're getting ready to take out here in just a minute. You go ahead though and preheat your oven to 350 degrees, because this is just going to take a second to mix up. Go ahead and add my eggs in there. Now, stir that while you dump that butter in there. It does work better if your eggs are at room temperature, because if your eggs and your milk are super cold and then you add your butter in, your butter is going to clump up. So if your eggs and your butter are at room temperature, this step here is much, much easier. While we're mixing this up and adding our pumpkin in here, I do want to ask you all to please subscribe to the channel if you are not already. We are like 2,000 something away from 1 million subscribers. And I would really love to see that by Thanksgiving. My whole family is getting super excited about the milestone that we're about to reach. And it is just incredible to me to think that there are almost 1 million of you out there who are watching. And many of you have been watching since we started almost 12 years ago. Go ahead and mix your pumpkin in your wet ingredients. And since we didn't add our sugar into our dry ingredients, we're going to add that in here first. You could see my little bit of dark brown sugar down in the bottom. And like I said, most pumpkin pie recipes, including the one that I have adapted this from, just call for regular granulated sugar. So if you don't have brown sugar, you can use regular granulated sugar, and a sugar substitute will also work. And if you do a sugar substitute with this for folks who are diabetic, this would be a very good one for them. And also do the almond flour instead of the regular flour. All right, now I'm just going to add my dry ingredients and mix it until it is very well combined. And ain't no need to get out your mixer for this. I mean, if you wanted to use a hand mixer, you could, but just whisking it up works just fine. I do see a lump of dark brown sugar in there, but that's okay. It won't hurt nothing. All right, now we're just going to pour this in our well-buttered pie pan. And make sure it's well buttered. I do usually put an old cookie sheet or something under this, but I have not yet had one of these that has boiled over. It looks like it's going to, and it scares me. I think it's going to, so I've always put a cookie sheet under it. And you can see this completely fills up my pie pan, which means it's going to make a really nice thick pie. Now I'm going to pull the one that I have in the oven out to show you what it looks like. Now when this bakes, it is going to rise up and it's going to be quite a bit thicker, but then it's going to fall back down, and it will be about this thick when it cools. It shouldn't be thinner than this, but it will be about this thick when it cools. Even though it rises up in the oven, don't panic when it starts falling. It's okay. You want to cook it. If you have a cake tester, you're using a cake tester, you want it to come out clean. You can also kind of adjust the texture by how long you bake it. I like my pumpkin pie baked really well done, and I usually bake it until it starts cracking, and that way it's definitely well done. But I just like that texture better than one that's maybe a little bit softer. If you cook it a little bit longer, it will make it a little bit firmer. And that's up to you. Adjust that how you like it. Some people like them really, really soft, barely set up. And if that's how you like it, don't cook it as long. But I like it where it's a little thicker and a little firmer. Okay, you can see here what I'm talking about, how high up it rises. And that is exactly how I like it. It's slightly brown around the edges. It's starting to crack. And if you just touch it, you can see it jiggles a little bit, but it's solid in the middle. That's done perfectly. Now this one, we're going to put in a 350-degree oven. This takes about 50 minutes to get it like this. You want to bake it somewhere between 45 and 55 minutes, depending on your oven, and again, depending on how done you like it. But you do want to make sure it's set up in the middle, otherwise it'll just be soupy and run everywhere when you take it out. It should definitely be risen up, and the top should be perfectly domed. If it's still stuck down in the top, you know, if you have a divot in the top, it's not completely done in the middle. You want to let this completely cool before you try to cut it. You're not going to get it out of here while it's hot. You can serve it at room temperature, or you can serve it refrigerated. I made this one last week when I did my Thanksgiving preview dinner, when I did the chicken turkey casserole that we shared with y'all. And you can see it's a piece of pie. You can even hold it in your hand. It is very firm. It doesn't like mush everywhere and fall apart because it doesn't have a crust. And it actually does, which you can't see it because it's all colored, it kind of does have a little tiny thin bit of a crust on it. But just serve this room temperature or chilled. I personally like it better cold. A little whipped cream or Cool Whip, you know, you can do fresh whipped cream or Cool Whip. Again, it depends on your personal preference. And you can see here how this is starting to settle down. It'll probably be just a tiny bit thicker than pre-mixed, but it'll be pretty much even with the top of the pan. And that is all there is to it. This is the best pumpkin pie. And it is a little lighter than the pumpkin pie with a crust. And you don't have to eat the crust first. If you've been one of those people that's ate the crust first your whole life, there's no crust to worry about with this one. It is almost Thanksgiving, and I hope you all have a blessed Thanksgiving. I want to leave you with 1 Corinthians 15:57. But thanks be to God, which gives us victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. I truly hope that this Thanksgiving, your relationship with Jesus Christ, your victory over your struggles is the first thing you are thankful for. I hope that you know the peace of God, the grace of Jesus Christ, and you feel the presence of the Holy Spirit in your life. Thank you so very much for being a part of our family. Thank you for all of the years of support that you have given us. I truly, truly do pray that you have a blessed Thanksgiving. And until next time, remember to put God first.